Hope it has been a good morning. Weather-wise, it is good. Comfort-wise, probably it was not good for many of the people who came from outside. But bear with us. You will enjoy the next few days with us in this beautiful city under the able guidance of our beloved Vice Chancellor here, Professor Rangappa. Friends, my speech, what I intend to tell you is here in this booklet. Please go home and read it. Keep it with you, because that contains most of what I want to tell you. I'm not going to read that, because if I read that, it will be till the cows come home. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to tell you the gist of what I want to tell you here today. A very pertinent question my good friend Richard Smith asked me this morning. How did you become the president of the Indian Academy of Social Sciences? That is $1 million question which I don't want to tell you. Accidents do happen. And thanks to this young man called Chaubey, I am in this chair. I have not been even a peon in any organization in my life so far. So I have been the president for the first time, thanks to this young man called Chaubey, whom you have heard. But I've been one of those who has been feeling very sorry for our educational system in India and also our science in particular. We seem to have completely misunderstood both words. Education is totally misunderstood in this country. Education, we think, is stuff into the student's head. On the contrary, education must be to bring out the best in the man or the woman. That's education. Educe is deliver out what's the good. Swami Vivekananda was very right when he said, education is the manifestation of the perfection which is already in man. That is what education should be. But it's the other way around. Usually, you deliver, midwife delivers, but the mother delivers the child. But in the class, the teacher delivers. The student should deliver. That's the thing. We don't have the system. Education is completely controlled by the state or what have you. Education should be also free. Education must be a school of curiosity. You join from the day you're born and leave the school only when you die. There's no graduation in between. You graduate when you leave this world. That's called the school of curiosity. But in our schools today, a brilliant child, in the words of Alexis Carrel, Nobel laureate, surgeon, who said, every newborn child is a genius, only to be converted into an idiot in school. Absolutely true, because in the school, you are told what to do, what to ask, what to learn, and what not to learn. But never think. THINK is something which is completely stopped the day you join the school. That's the reason why we are in a state where we are. This is what Chaubey was telling about control. Science is not something outside of all this education. So our education system first should change, and there must be freedom. That's why I've labeled my talk as science needs to be set free for the good of mankind. Science needs to be set free. Today science is not free. You have a thought, let us say. And today, research is repetitive research. What someone else has done, we repeat that. It's called Me Too research. And stress is on the number. How many papers have you written? What grant have you got? How much grant you have got? A great scientist today is one who collects a lot of money as grant, and one who writes so many papers, not worth the paper in it is written, and then goes up the ladder with awards and prizes where you pat my back and I pat your back. This happens from day one till you die. This is called science. This we have got from the West. You will be surprised. There's a beautiful book I want all of you to read, which is called Science for Sale, written by a man called David Lewis. For a foreword for that book, Robert Kennedy Jr. writes this beautiful line, which I would read it verbatim so that you don't miss any line in that. Robert Kennedy Jr., writing about David Lewis in his book, has this following sentence to make. David Lewis has been a beacon of integrity against the apocalyptical forces of ignorance and greed, endeavoring to divert science from the noble pursuit of truth and pervert it into food for support the most destructive policies of the industry and the government. As Chaubey rightly said, what is science? Splitting an atom and making an atom bomb? Is that science? Or trying chemical drugs, reductionist chemical drugs for diseases. There's a pill for every ill. And what happens at the end? There is no pill for every ill, but there is an ill following every pill. Result is that Saddam Hussein didn't have weapons of mass destruction, but we, the medical establishment, have the weapons of mass destruction. In a week, in the United States of America alone, 4 jumbo jet loads of people fall down from the sky. They die of adverse drug reactions. Have you ever read any paper write about it? They won't. Because media is also controlled now. You don't get the truth in the media. You get perverted truth. Even if a small 2-engine plane falls with 4 people dying, it's 24/7 news. But how many people? 4 jumbo jets falling down, much more than accidents, much more than warfare, much more than guns. Drugs kill people. I only want the doctors to tell patients 2 things when he prescribes a drug. A, the NNT of the drug and the ADR quotient of the drug. NNT is number needed to treat. No drug in science, medical science, is fit for all unless what we think is one size fits all. It is not there at all. Supposing you take a tablet for a particular disease, and if I prescribe a tablet for a particular disease, it may or may not affect you, or may not do any good to you, but it will certainly do some harm to you. You must know these 2 things. NNT is number needed to treat. The number of people who you have to give this drug to benefit one man. I'll give you an example. The blood pressure lowering drugs, which are now claimed as a big thing and a big profit making industry, is blood pressure lowering drugs. The NNT of blood pressure lowering drugs in the first study of the multiple risk factor study showed that to prevent an imaginary stroke in the next 5 years, a healthy man with so-called raised blood pressure, to get the drug, to benefit one man, you have to give 850 people unnecessarily that drug. You understand that? NNT, number needed to treat. 1% to benefit, 850 people suffer. And the adverse reaction is 5%. That is 850 people, 5% is about 45 people, either die or suffer from the side effects. One man is supposed to benefit. Now another big myth was created called cholesterol. Fat is the cause of disease, and this was going on for the last 40 years, which I've been fighting. Now, of course, Americans have also come back one circle full and say fat is not the cause of heart disease. Anyway, that's besides the point. There's a drug called statin for lowering fats. The NNT is 300. If you give one man any benefit, 300 people will suffer. And the side effect ratio is, ADR ratio is 10%. That means 30 people suffer from that. 30 people become diabetics because they take this drug. It's a benefit, isn't it? We are manufacturing diabetes. Now we say we don't want to have cancer. That's what we proclaim. Cancer treatment, cancer charity, cancer so many things, cancer hospitals, copy up. But do you know a recent study of 75,000 people showed that 75% of cancers, 75% of cancers are due to only 2 causes, alcohol and tobacco. Is there anybody trying to stop this? Anybody trying to tell the people that don't drink, don't smoke because you'll get cancer? Nobody, because it's a big industry. Is the government trying to do anything? No. So where are we? What is the science? The science that we have, which come from the West in the beginning to us, and with the colonization, science has been there, created to keep us under control. Unfortunately, even today, nearly 70 years after so-called political independence, we still think with the Western mind. But in the West, there are thinkers. Richard is an exception. And Richard has been thinking about this. He was the editor of the British Medical Journal for 30 long years, 25 years to be precise. And all these years, he has been writing against this kind of practices in the Western medicine. And that's the reason why he is the chief guest today. Thank you, Richard, for coming. I know how difficult it was for him to come. Prime Minister had promised to inaugurate the conference because I told him, you inaugurated a science congress and don't have a stepmotherly treatment towards the social science congress. He was very keen to come. But unfortunately something came up, you know what. And it will be now foolish to talk about science congress when he is deep down in trouble for no reason. If you want to do good, you have to suffer a lot. If you don't want to do good and if you want to harm, you don't suffer at all. And this man wants to do good to country and that's why he is suffering. But he couldn't care less because he has no agenda. He has no hidden agenda. He has only one agenda: do good to this country. So he told me day before yesterday, I won't be able to come. And that's why we have a very good step in Richard. Richard may not have the political stature of our Prime Minister, but Richard has a scientific stature to fit into the shoes to inaugurate and give the keynote address. Professor Rangappa has been so kind. He agreed to host this conference, liberally gave funds, etc. But in a large organization like the universities today, you know what universities are. People work at crossroads, and people don't cooperate, and most of the time they are not interested. See, this is what's happening. A conference is happening, okay, it's happening. You know, I couldn't, nobody sort of involves himself or herself. But Asadi has been trying his best to do what he could, and probably there are deficiencies, we are responsible for that. So if there are any deficiencies, curse me and Chaube, but thank Asadi and Professor Rangappa for hosting the conference. Friends, I must tell you that the science is a big hoax on all of us, the so-called science. And I don't like the caste system in any society, including in science. What is this natural science and what is social science? It's a very interesting thing. Science is science. Trying to understand the world is called science. But today's technological science is trying to teach the world a lesson or two, not trying to understand nature. Instead of delivering the baby through the normal route, we take the baby directly from the abdomen. Now after so many years we have realized if you take the baby directly from the abdomen, the baby doesn't have a proper immune system because it has to come through the genital tract in which when it acquires all those germs, billions and trillions of germs, which are the backbone of our real immune system. Now the best thing for health is allow the body's own immune system to treat most, if not all, illnesses, full stop. We have been here for 900,000 years and 50,000 generations. And the so-called modern medicine, so-called Western science has been there for about, say, 100 years, 200 years. And the most technological medicine that you're talking about has been there for about 25 years. And the corporate monstrosity that we see today has been there for about 10 years. If what they say is true, that if you don't come to me, take my medicines, you will all perish in no time, we wouldn't be here at all. 900,000 years, we would have been extinct like the dinosaurs. Western science has now realized that there are still aboriginal races deep down in the Amazon forest who live up to 100 years without any illness, and if they did get any illness, they know what herbs to take. So the Western scientists now, especially the pharmaceutical industry, is joining up with the loggers in Amazon forest. They say, okay, you cut the trees in the Amazon, how much money will you make? So much. Okay, I'll give you 10 times that money. Leave the forest to me. Because now the Western science has realized the human immune system's power has gone up so much, which was 23% 50 years ago, is 59% today. That means they cannot produce a chemical drug which is more powerful than 59% effect on the system. So the FDA does not permit them to pass any new drug. So they have got to research and find out the old holistic drugs in the forests. So Amazon forest they own now. With that, they have got a new knowledge now. The aboriginal races inside the Amazon forest live very happily. Unlike us, we call ourselves civilized. They are not civilized. They don't even have clothes on them, but they are very healthy. There is a new move in the West now to find out more. And Chaube has put in our own efforts in India to get the tribal medicine into mainstream. So this is exactly the future of science. The borderless, boundaryless, classless, casteless science, one science. I had so much a problem going to the central government, telling the science and technology department that social science is also science. The minister understands because he is a doctor and he is a chair of mine, he understands. He says, sir, I understand, but my bureaucrats don't understand. And the senior bureaucrat was asking me, what is the social science? There is no natural, that if there is no natural, we can't fund it. He wanted nature, a word nature, natural science, to fund it. So the minister called him and said, read the whole document. If you find any word natural there, round it off in red ink and fund them. This is the state we are in. These are our funders. Unfortunately, what happened was, there were very crafty natural scientists in the past who had the ear of the powers that be, and they get all the funds. Ask Dr. Rangappa, what was the budget for the Natural Science Congress? In crores. What is the budget for the Social Science Congress? In lakhs. Same number of lakhs. Can you imagine that? So the natural science, so-called natural science, gets 100 times more funding as compared to social science. But from man's point of view and human health for the future, social science is more important than the so-called natural sciences. Come to natural sciences where they stand. I would recommend a small book for you. It's written for the Eastern countries only by two professors of physics in New York, Harry Collins and Trevor Pinch. These are two physicists in New York. They have written this book called The Golem, G-O-L-E-M. Golem is not an English word. Golem is a Hebrew word. Golem is a scarecrow. You know this old rabbis, they used to carry this golem when they went to predict somebody's future, to frighten them. So you must see this scarecrow when you build a building so that you don't get dusty, you put that scarecrow. These people argue, these are two professors of physics, they argue that the whole science is created to frighten and keep the third world countries and the colonies under their control. I'll give you an example. They write, I quote, science is not logical. Science is an enterprise. Science is a craft. And science is fallible. But you and I think science goes after truth. No, it doesn't go after truth. It goes after money. Money is such a powerful thing today. Research is also after money now. You know, when money came into this world, man started suffering. Up until money came, there was no suffering at all. There were no leftists and rightists. They're all centrists. When money came, those who didn't have money became leftists. Those who had money became rightists. And now we have extreme right and extreme left. When money came in Europe, to be precise in England, when the first industry started in 1802, there was this romantic English poet, William Wordsworth, who wrote a poem called The World is Too Much With Us. Have you read that? If you're not ready, read it. I'll give you first 4 lines and to make your appetite, it's just the appetizing. The world is too much with us, comma, late and soon, full stop. Getting and spending. We seem to waste our powers. Today, why people collect 2,000 rupee notes and 500 rupees notes? Get in, spend lavishly. Now, third line. Little do we see in nature that is ours. Mind you, every disease, I am saying every disease, can be cured naturally. If you know how to stimulate your own immune system, and if you know a little bit of quantum physics, and you can direct your own immune system to cure your own disease. If there is time at the end, because I am supposed to speak up to 12 o'clock, I started a little late, doesn't matter, I'll finish by 12. And if I'm not done, raise a hand, my seat stop, because mine is structured in such a way that I stand up, speak up, and shut up. Come to the second important part is money runs it. The last line is very interesting. Little do we see in nature that is ours. Last line is very, very interesting. We have sold our soul a sordid bowl. Full stop. Haven't we sold our soul? Yesterday, Richard and me met a young cardiac surgeon in Mysore. A brilliant boy. I know this boy. Very brilliant boy. He is an FRCS, exit FRCS in cardiac surgery. He is an FRCS London, FRCS Edinburgh, and he has also done an MBA. And he has trained in America. This boy was telling us yesterday, which I've been writing for 40 years. He came to see me specifically because he has read my things, but he has not seen me. So he came to tell me what's happening. Now, anybody who goes to the doctor becomes a patient. Did you know that? You didn't know that? No. A brilliant professor of medicine in America asked her brightest student in the class, who is a patient? The student shot back. A man or woman who sees a doctor becomes a patient. She was shocked. You know, she was a brilliant girl herself. Then she was shocked. She said, is that what I taught you? Okay, when does he become a man or woman again? She asked. Boy shot back, rarely ever, if ever. This is why Richard wrote a beautiful editorial when he was the editor of the British Medical Journal about 25 years ago, the screening industry. Do you remember, Richard? Screening industry. Screening is the biggest industry. You are asked to come for a checkup, right? I've been telling these bankers, bank chairmen, do not fund your people's checkup because they become patients. Instead, you tell them if you do not go to see a doctor and if you change your lifestyle and live well, you will probably get a bonus of 1 lakh rupees every year. It is still profitable because I know. I'll give you an example. I had a general manager of a bank, 50 years old, 58 years old. He came to me with some chest pain, vague chest pain. I examined him, there's nothing. I told him, don't you worry, I'll give you some medicines, you'll be all right. He went back. Then his friends and all told him, look, you're 58 now, by 60 you will retire. Supposing you have problems after that, you'll have to fund it yourself. Why don't you get a bypass surgery done now? You're 58 only, so that you'll never get a heart attack. Little does a common man know that a bypass surgery increases the risk of heart attack twice, increases the risk of stroke 4 times, increases the risk of sudden death twice, and increases the risk of malignant arrhythmias. Doesn't do any good, but they claim that it does good, and you all get better because the placebo effect, you gain a lot of money. The placebo effect cures. My former boss in Harvard did a wonderful study of bypass surgeries, not by cutting the chest. We do the bypass surgery with a laser beam. What he did was 600 patients over 5 years were sent for bypass surgery. So he sent them randomly into 2 theaters. Theater A, anesthetize, operate, send. Theater B, anesthetize, don't do anything. When he wakes up, tell him he had a wonderful operation, send him home. 300 here, 300 here. Now after 10 years, the audit, they published the data after 10 years. And the data showed that the 300 who went to theater B are all fine. Scanning showed their blood vessels have supplied blood back into the heart. Beautiful. Whereas on the other side, half of them did not get any relief, so they went for a conventional surgery. The remaining half are with their maker in heaven. The remaining half are suffering from the drug effect. Isn't that good? You think, oh, we have drugs, we get cured. Oxford, Cambridge, Hamburg and Munich did a beautiful study. They gave morphia, which is the biggest painkiller known to mankind. A patient with severe pain was given a drip of morphia, but told by the doctor, whom he believed, that the faith in the doctor, this is not morphia, this is a new vitamin, B12, 17 we have given. It's good for your disease, but not painkiller. Nobody's pain went. They did a crossover study, they took the same patient on the other side and ran a saline drip, salt water drip, and told the patient, this is morphia, the latest salt of morphia, everybody's pain went. This is called the placebo effect. Placebo effect. Professor Carr doesn't believe this, so I'll give him the reference. That article is called the placebo effect. And the first author's name is Professor Bingham, who is in Oxford. And the journal is Science Translational Medicine. And the year is 2011, volume is 3 and page is 70. Please read it. Now what I'm saying is, everything happens in the body. The ultimate curing has to come from the body's immune system. And today quantum physics tells us that you and I are the same. There's no difference between me and Chaubey. Chaubey may be from UP, he may be in Allahabad, I may be from Karnataka, I may be here. But Chaubey and me are made of the same energy, same consciousness. And it can't be any different. And when I look at Chaubey, sometimes I get angry. Do you know why? You take a monkey to a mirror, it becomes so angry, looking at its own face. So when I look at Chaubey and if I become angry, that means I don't like my own face. When I look at Chaubey, I'm looking at myself. So Chaubey is a part of me. So we can't be angry with anybody. And if you're not angry with anybody, most of these killer diseases are gone. You don't get hypertension, you don't get so many things. So you don't have to worry about it. So diseases can be cured. I will tell you something about my own self, how I cured myself without any illness, medicines or surgery. But I won't tell you because the paper is still pending with Nature. I've sent the paper to Nature and it's under their consideration, so I will tell you. But recently I met with an accident. I was not even sure whether to come here at all. I was going for a walk in the morning and dead drunk auto rickshaw driver came, swerved from the road and came on the footpath and hit me so hard. But the momentum was less because the footpath was a little raised. So the impact first was on the raised footpath and then on me. I should have been dead. I was under the auto rickshaw. I could see the auto rickshaw going on my leg. But I am here. I have not taken a single pill. I have not taken a painkiller also. I have not taken even tetanus toxoid. My wounds all healed. Thank God for that. But I healed it by quantum healing. If you want to read a book called Quantum Doctor, written by one of the professors of quantum physics in Eugene. He is an Indian, unfortunately or fortunately. Amit Goswami is one of the brains in quantum physics who probably did a lot of work in quantum physics and has got a name. He has been nominated for Nobel several times, but he doesn't get the Nobel for the simple reason that, if you don't condemn India, you don't get the Nobel Prize. This is the secret, I'll tell you. If you want, anyone of you want to get the Nobel Prize, condemn India. Write a book saying that India is very bad, Mysore has been horrible, I went there and things like that. And then you get either a Booker Prize or a Nobel Prize. Come back to Amit Goswami's book, Quantum Doctor. You see, it's so easy. So we should really have this kind of science coming to us. We still are dwelling in the space-time conundrum of Einstein and Newton. All science changed because of money. Before that, see, patenting is a big curse. It is because of the patenting that today drugs are so expensive. You take a multivitamin tablet, many of you, if you want to die early, you must take multivitamin tablets. These multivitamin tablets cost you anywhere between 25 rupees to 30 rupees. Costs you one single paisa to manufacture that. One single paisa to manufacture. And reductionist chemical vitamins do no good at all, but do no more harm. But we still believe in that. We still believe in that, don't we? That's because we think whatever comes from the West is gospel truth. Most of us are RNIs, resident non-Indians. Especially the so-called educated class are RNIs, resident non-Indians. You live here, but think with the Western brain. 25 years I have been fighting for fat being a very good thing for human beings. Fat is not bad for health, and especially cholesterol is very good because coconut oil, the oil that we in the coast we use for everything from bathing to eating, and coconut oil is the best oil because I found out coconut oil is the same fat that the mother's milk has, monolauric acid. So I wrote 25 years ago an article saying that mother's milk and coconut oil are identical, and for an infant without the mother, the food must contain coconut oil base. If there is any other oil, the child will die. These people didn't know. Even in the West, they were using coconut oil as a base because child doesn't have pancreatic lipase. Child only has salivary lipase. So child must be given something which digests in the mouth. There are only two things which digest in the mouth. A, mother's milk. B, coconut oil. And for this I was condemned, I was threatened, and all things happened. Now suddenly America says, yes, fat is very good for health. And they demonized a very good British scientist in the 60s, John Yudikin, who wrote a beautiful book, Pure, White and Deadly. He said sugar is the biggest process, not fat. And this man lost his job. Look at our Western science. We still think the human mind is in the brain. Don't you? The man who got the Nobel Prize for saying that the human mind is in the brain has written that the human mind is not in the brain. But we have not listened to him. Because he got the Nobel Prize for saying that human mind is in the brain, we continue to think the human mind is in the brain. And this man is a Wilder Benfield, a Canadian neurosurgeon who got the Nobel Prize for saying that the mind is the seat of all thinking. Now here he says, I quote what he had written in 1971, which we are not taken note of. None of the actions we attribute to mind action has been initiated by electric stimulation or epileptic discharge. There is no area of the grey matter in the brain, as far as my experience goes, which local discharge brings to pass what could be called mind action. And he's written something else. What is mind? What mind does is something totally different. It is not accounted for by any neuronal discharge. And that I can, to expect the highest brain mechanism or any set of reflexes, however complicated, to carry out what the mind does and thus perform all the functions of the mind is quite absurd. But still, today, for mental diseases, we give chemical drugs which only affect the brain. Now, a professor of neuropsychiatry in New York, young girl, Grace Elizabeth Jackson, wrote a book, Dementia, a drug-induced crime on mankind. She wrote, the mental diseases drugs, especially depression drugs, are the ones which produce dementia. And what happens to this girl? She is dismissed. She lost her job. She is no longer the professor. But this book gets her enough money. So friends, science is money. Science is no longer a pursuit of truth. Science is pursuit of something that pleases the fund giver. Supposing the fund is given for a certain cause and you don't get a positive result, you won't get the next fund. That is how the fat theory came. Ansel Keys was a very big researcher supposed to be. He was given $100,000 saying that, is there any connection between fat and heart disease? So he went around country after country after country after country. 22 countries he went and there was no connection between eating fat and heart disease. But he can't write a paper like that. So he sat at home, didn't tell anybody, eliminated country by country by country by country and manipulated to get a straight line. And he wrote Ansel Keys 6-country study, which became so famous that is quoted left, right and center ever since, from the 50s to the 90s, to sell fat lowering drugs. One single fat lowering drug, I won't tell you the name, gets the profit of $13 billion profit for a company, one company in a year. So it's not for nothing that they do science the way they do it. Science is done for this particular reason. But whenever there is an inconvenient thing, they suppress it. You all know about ultrasound. You don't know how ultrasound came into medicine. Ultrasound came into medicine from the Second World War, Nazi secrets of underground submarines having the ultrasound beams. Like the fish having a piezoelectric crystal in his eyes, fish can track the route it goes after it is born till it dies. Now what that particular study of the Nazis showed was, any fish coming in the beam, the ultrasound beam, dies. But today you read the medical textbooks, ultrasound is absolutely safe. You can have an ultrasound scanning of every pregnant woman every month, or 2 months if you like, twice a month. Nobody talks about the biological bad effects of ultrasound. Ultrasound is not as safe as it is made out. But we don't get to know the whole truth. Truth is suppressed, twisted. And this is called the science of statistics. You know what it is? You don't know. A professor of statistics and epidemiology in New York, Stephen Milloy, wrote a small book, Statistics, Science Without Sense. This is how statistics can be changed. Supposing you want a particular thing, you want to show that BMI is the cause of all problems in society. You can create, you shoot at a particular thing. You just aimlessly shoot at something, and I'm not good at shooting, so the bullets go all over the wall. Then I go near the wall, find out where accidentally some bullets have come together. Put a circle there and say, that was the target I was aiming. This is called Texas sharpshooting. Then you get what's called data dredging, sexing up and doing things. That's what Ansel Keys did. So you can do anything and then present the data in such a way that is good. So that is not science, my dear. Social science is the only future science, because good of mankind, anything that man does must be for good of mankind. Nothing should be for destruction of mankind. This is what I call as humanism. I coined the word medical humanism years ago, where medicine, whatever medicine does, must be for the good of mankind. A recent audit showed, 14-country study showed, that the medical establishment is the leading cause of death in the world. When doctors went on strike in different parts of the world, Richard knows because his paper wrote. His editorial wrote, doctors going on strike will certainly improve society's health. Recently in Israel, Bogota in Colombia, Saskatchewan in Canada, Los Angeles County, and recently in Dublin. What happened? Doctors went on strike, nurses ran the hospital, hardly anyone died. New Zealand said, every child must have once in 3 months free dental checkup so that you don't get caries in New Zealand. And there is a free checkup. And the result was, after 10 years, New Zealand had the maximum number of dental problems in the world. So, Dr. Welsh has written a beautiful book, Less Medicine, More Health. Please understand, less medicine, more health. I always tell Government of India, they say, oh, doctor-to-patient ratio is very small. That's why we want more medical colleges. Have one medical college in Mysore, one in Hunsur, one in Shimoga, and things like that. So many medical colleges. None of them are staffed properly. None of them is really a good medical college, but they have medical colleges and they produce doctors. I say, no, we want less doctors. As a matter of fact, India has so many doctors. We think only MBBS is a doctor. No, here MBBS doctors, BAMS doctors, homeopaths,
and quacks and all kinds of doctors here, RMPs. And all these are equally effective on society, mind you that. Remember that, because those who are not having big degree are more compassionate. And when you're more compassionate to patient, they get better. WHO did a study in Thailand. There are 5 systems of medicine: pure Western, pure Chinese, integrated Chinese Western, Samoa system, and the last one is quackery. 5 years prospective study. Beautifully computerized prospective randomized study. We showed that all systems of medicine that you're talking about are equally effective on society. Imagine, just take a Canadian study showed when a common doctor, a family doctor sees one heart attack patient, he will have seen 36,000 minor illness syndromes. Today, a family doctor treats everything as illness. Minor illness syndromes don't have to have anything. What are the minor illness syndromes? Common cold, feverish cold, sore throat, flu-like illness. Now you ask an MBBS doctor, finally a doctor, the difference between common cold and feverish cold? He wouldn't know. We have not taught him that. But we have taught him the intricacies of a cell inside this thing, subcellular thing, and coronary arteries disease and this and that. But not taught him the difference between common cold and feverish cold. But the impact of that is, on a given day in Europe, in winter, 50 million people do not go to work because of upper respiratory infections. It's the biggest societal impact. 50 million people, sick absenteeism, and all can be treated by simple things. Professor Simon in Harvard showed that ginger, my old granny's ginger, garlic, pepper, onion can treat most viruses, if not all viruses that affect the upper respiratory tract. Do you have to go to a doctor for that? No. The 14-country study, which started from Japan to America, showed that where there are more doctors, there are less health. Where there are less doctors, there is better health. Where there are more doctors, longevity was less. Where there are less doctors, longevity is more. Where there are more doctors, there are more sickness, and where there are less doctors, there is better health. So I was telling the government, don't unnecessarily increase the number. Try to get the quality. They say our poor people are very unhappy because they don't have doctors. Poor people are the only ones who don't have the ADR, adverse drug reaction, because they can't afford it. Poor people are the ones who don't have a bypass graft in their chest. They're very happy about it. London doctors in 18th, 19th century were so bad that anybody who went to a surgeon, very famous surgeon called Arbuthnot Lane, had his colon removed because Arbuthnot Lane believed at that time that all diseases emanated from poison coming from the colon. So all rich people in London didn't have a colon. They had a bag with shit coming out and smelling. Whole London was stinking. But nobody had the guts, and no journal had the guts to write something against that. But it's Bernard Shaw who wrote a drama called Doctor's Dilemma. 3 times it was enacted in London. Arbuthnot Lane closed his clinic. There was a young man called James Wakely who said, I'm going to change all this. He said, I quote, London doctors have become a bunch of nepotistic, corrupt, incompetent fools, like an abscess on the human body with a pus inside. I'm going to start a science journal and I'll call it the Lancet, cut the cell, and I will drain the pus and make it all right. What happened? Lancet started in 1823. And of course it had its problems in the beginning without money, etc., but it survived. Now after 185 years, the present editor tried to find out what is the impact on society with the Lancet coming in. And he commissioned a journalist. And she wrote a beautiful report. And in short, one line I'll tell you. She wrote, what was a bunch of corrupt, nepotistic, incompetent fools in London in 1823 has transformed itself into a corporate monstrosity and is cutting people and left, right and center all over the world. The young man yesterday told us, he's a cardiac surgeon, chief of cardiac surgery. His manager calls him and says, every patient in the intensive care unit, you must order every blood test every day, otherwise our income will not come up. This man has a conscience, this young man has a conscience. And he told us, Richard and me, last evening, doctors want profit. Famous case of our Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu. Nearly 2 months in the hospital, 80 crores bill. And where is she now? What do you know, have you audited the intensive care unit? Less than 10% of the people go home. If it is useful for 10% of people, is it a good thing? But tomorrow's hospitals, I am told by the corporate honchos, are going to be only intensive care units. Ordinary beds will not be there at all. Can you believe that? Because audit in America showed the 90% of the profit for the hospitals comes from keeping dying patients in the intensive care unit for the last 10 days. So much so today, dying has lost its honor and its dignity. You know, consciousness of people who have died and come back alive, they have written books. Dr. Johnston, a zoologist, and recently this Jill Bolte Taylor, a professor of neurology in Harvard, she almost died and she came back. She writes, when she was going with that serious illness to the hospital, she was very happy. The whole world was very happy. She was in heaven. When doctors started working on an intensive care unit, it was hell. Same way Johnson was crushed by a lioness, a delivering lioness, in anger. And he says when the lioness was crushing him, he was in complete happiness, eternal happiness, which is called nirvana. And then when doctors started working on him for 8 hours, it was hell for him. Intensive care unit is not a very pleasant thing. Mind you, many of you must have had experience. If you had a relative dying in the intensive care unit, your guilt feeling is there. Probably he wanted to tell me something, I couldn't talk to him. I wanted to tell him something, he couldn't talk to me. They won't allow you to see him in the name of infection. In spite of that, the hospitals are full of superbugs. They won't let you in. This is what is happening. This is called science. If it must change, science must be casteless. Science must be one. Science must be for the good of mankind. And science must not have any financial ties attached to it. There should not be these prizes and things like that, awards and things like that. And promotions on PhD. Today you can't become an assistant professor, right? Today PhDs are manufactured, left, right and center. You can get a PhD very easily. I had a thesis from a very prestigious university. I wrote to them, I have no time to correct. They said, sir, no, you are the only one who has done some original work. Please correct it. I corrected and sent the methodology wrong. Do you know what the Vice Chancellor did? He copied that and gave it to the candidate. And the candidate's brother was a very big man, politically, economically, financially and all. And then they changed the examiner and he got his PhD. That's a different thing. But after that, his brother started writing to me, you're a bloody fool. You've forgotten. How can you say this methodology wrong? Because it's given by so-and-so, who is so-and-so, 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 and it's all this, who is who in the world. I will kill you, etc., etc. Then, every day he will send one. And when I called his Vice Chancellor, he says, sir, it happens, sir, sometimes it happens, sir. I said, how can it happen? It is sent to the Vice Chancellor. How can it go to the candidate? But it did go to the candidate. And he started, abusing me left, right and center. He said, next time you come to our city, we'll kill you. And then, what do I do? Then I told him, I got about 20 of your letters abusing me. I'm sending all these letters to the CBI chief, who is a patient of mine, and he will look into it. After that, it stopped. Is this PhD? Do you want that kind of PhD? You can get a PhD thesis written for money. Do you know that? Of course, it happens in America, so we are aping it. There's an institute in California which manufactures a PhD thesis. The cost is only $5,000, $10,000, that's all. You get PhD. There was a university vice chancellor in one of the states in India who had this kind of PhD degree from America. He had never gone to America, he had a PhD from America, and that was the basis on which he was made the vice chancellor. If this is a state of science and education, what is the future for India? We need authenticity. We want truth. We want young men and women who now can fight this system. And that's why Chaubeji gave this call to the youngsters here, future generation, because it belongs to you, not you, me. I have been fighting it for 60 years. As a student, I got into trouble because I told my teacher that what she was telling was not correct. And she said, I'll see that you don't pass. Somehow or other, I passed, I suppose. So, but then this is how it happens. You can't ask a question. I just asked her a question. I said, look, sir, madam, this doesn't look correct to me. This water electrolyte balance. Even today we kill patients in the intensive care unit because we don't understand water electrolyte balance. There's so much water inside the body. If it has to come to the vascular system, it will come. We give so much water. So if you overload, heart failure, he dies. See? There's so much of blood in the system. One bottle of blood is in your pelvis ready for any accident. for transfusion, auto transfusion. We give blood drop per drop and then send them to meet their maker in heaven. There's what's called transmutation. If sodium is less, potassium can get converted to sodium by the body itself. This is called transmutation, which is now known. And cells communicate with one another. And all this happens, but we don't let that happen. We block it. Heart attack, leave alone, he'll recover. You interfere, he'll die. Friends, now I'll tell you what I've been telling you. All that I told you all this time was, how can we free science from the various things that are catching it now in the name of money. And getting it out of money, science will now blossom again and come back to Galileo's time, Archimedes' time. Science was for pleasure. Science is thinking. And Indian science, if you understand now the quantum physics says Indian science is the basis of all quantum physics. Hans Peter Dewar, who found out E is equal to m, calls it a-duality, said, I call it a-duality. But Indian sages called it as Advaita thousands of years ago. And that's the essence of quantum physics. He says, Bahirantascha bhutanam, inside and outside of everything, it is there, it's energy. Charam acharamevacha, it's moving all the time, but you all look solid. That's Maya. Sukshmavadita Vidyam, it's so subtle that nobody can see. Nobody has seen an electron, but they got the Nobel Prize for describing an electron. Durastham. When you don't know, you don't know. Cha, Anikita Chatar, when it's inside you. Thank you very much.